So we've just had a fantastic message from you, part of your leadership series called Steps. Could you tell us what Steps actually stands for?
I can indeed. Steps, S-T-E, what am I doing? S-T-E-P. Yeah,
S.
S. Yeah. Steps stands for stability, training, equipped, purpose, stand. Okay, so we use the word steps, referring to steps, but there's a meaning behind each one of the letters. Oh, I've just messed with my mic there. Sorry about that. Yeah, there's a meaning behind every single one of the letters because it is about stability. And stability in the scriptures, it talks about a double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. And it's about helping you to be stable and someone realistically that can hold your ground. That's the S part, stability. The training is really important that people are trained, incorporated in training. It's not just about you hearing information, but you're being open to being corrected. Because a part of real training is not just you being taught, but it's also about you being corrected, which is all part of you being developed. And then from there, you'll be what you ought to be. One scripture in the Bible, 2 Timothy chapter 3, verse 16, it says, all scriptures are God-breathed, useful for teaching, correcting, training in righteousness. So the man of God is fully equipped. Real stability and training will help you to be what you're called to be, equipped as you ought to be.
Yeah. And do you think that every leader has to be trained, has to have some kind of training to fully come into what it is that God has for them?
I think the biggest problem, if I'm going to be honest, what I see today is that leaders are trained theologically. So they know their hermeneutics, their exegesis, they know end time talk, but that is a training you can get anyway. That's a necessity. But the real training for a leader is spiritual. Yeah, from a biblical perspective. And I'll say that's my concern. My concern is I question whether I would say lots of the modern types of leaders have fully gone through their process of, like I said in my message about, yes, you've been called. And that's another thing. Are you really called?
Yeah.
Yeah. Led. Will you allow him to lead you and stop trying to lead yourself? Yeah. And also when it comes to, called, led, timing. I think timing, from my perspective, seems to have gone out of the window. Everybody has decided that, overnight they want to be
done instantly. Yeah.
Instantly. Everybody is a fast food chain minister, is what I believe. Many I see, not all, obviously. From my perspective, things seem to happen too quickly. Everybody's a prophet. Everybody's an apostle. Everybody's a this. Everybody's a that. But real mature leaders know they can see you're not there yet. You haven't fully gone through your process. Without a shadow of a doubt, the training is important. Remember what I said that God said to me? And God said to me, Isaac, I've not called you to be fireworks. And I'm concerned I'm seeing a lot of fireworks. Fireworks, beautiful, explosive, wow. But like the Lord said to me, I don't want you to be fireworks, a sudden beautiful explosion, and then you disappear. My concern is that we won't have a future of leaders that become fathers. We have leaders, as Paul said it this way, loads of teachers, but few fathers. And I'm concerned that they are not going through their process. So for me, being trained is a very strong thing within my heart, as I have got an anointing on me to equip leaders, not just church, not just referring to just members, but there's a special anointing on me to train leaders, help them to come into what God's called them to. And my concern is if you don't follow pursuit with God's plan, leadership steps, down the road, you're going to fall short.
So let's talk about your process.
My process.
So I know, as your daughter, as somebody who is a leader underneath you in Faith Harvest Ministry, that you've been doing this for a long time, but I think it will be really nice for our listeners to hear your testimony, where you started, what brought you to this place now. When did you become a pastor? How long have you been pastoring? So let's just hear and explore that a little bit more.
Let us explore.
Let us explore.
Let us explore. Leadership, I've been in leadership 27 years. That's a long time. and it has its ups and downs as you're developing with the Lord. I would start from when I first became a Christian 27 years ago. And like I said in the message, where I woke up one night not realizing what was going on, and out of me, because what was happening was God was tapping into the real me. And out of me came the cry that said, who am I? And I remember thinking, what is this? About 3 o'clock at night, what's going on here? And I thought, what nonsense is that? Go back to sleep. And within moments, I hear the voice of the Lord, and he says to me, Isaac, you're called to be my prophet. I jump up again and says, what's that? Yeah, I don't have a clue. I don't have no understanding. Went church when I was young, but don't really have any understanding of church structure, church mind. I'm saved, but I don't know what you're talking about. And then he said to me, you're called to be my prophet. Then he started talking to me about it. Then he started giving me dreams and showing me my future. And I didn't like a single thing I saw. And why that's important is because what God's called you to, you may not like a Jeremiah. You may not want it and you make excuses. So when he first called me, I didn't want it. Okay. And I didn't tell anyone. Everywhere I went, people kept saying to me, God said, you're this, or you're a prophet, you're this. And I just ignored it. But eventually I had to agree this was what my future was. And I thought, okay. So I left it. I've been in 2 churches. The first church I was in, which is where I got saved in, and I was there for about a year and a bit, is what I say. And then what happened was there was like this pull inside to me that I didn't know the word destiny, but there was just like pull. There was something. It wasn't there was anything more in regards to where I was. I came from an incredible church, the first one, but there was something inside me that was pulling me to something more, but it was outside of the remit of the church that I was in. And eventually, I went to a conference which birthed where I am right now. I went to a conference and there was a man there, they call him Apostle Rennie McLean, and he was ministering. And when I sat there, all I heard was the Lord said to me very loud, you need to be with him. And I thought, what are you talking about? He's ministering, he stops, he turns and says, oh, the Lord says some of you are meant to be with me. And he goes back to ministering. That was it. Everything started to change from that moment. It felt like there was a cut, like this is where you need to be. And this is really important for people when it comes to what they're called to. Went back to my church, still served in my original church. And, I revealed to them, they started to realize, there was something more calling your life. And this is how we do it. And I presented it to my pastor, and they saw that, there's something about you. We think you should be released. They said, we think you should be going to that church now. They laid hands on me, prayed for me, and released me. Problem we have today, starting right there, is many people have not been released. Many people just leave. They keep making excuses by saying that the previous church don't understand me. Load of nonsense. You need to understand and stay where you are in most cases. So everything about my life was according to steps.
Why is being released important?
Or I use the term being released if they're going to, is that's more to do with where they let you go, agree. It should not be based on negative behavior. Shouldn't be about me trying to force something through and me just deciding I'm just going over there. I should be able to speak to who are my leaders and say, this is what I believe God has said about me. And if they'd said to me, we think you should hold on, I would hold on. Okay. They said you shouldn't go, I probably wouldn't have gone, but God would have made a way because of my obedience. Okay. And what happens is people just hop all over the place and saying that they're called to this, they're called to that. Well, they don't like this church here. We like the preaching, but we don't like the worship. I like this church here. I like the worship, but I don't like the preaching. I like the minister right there, but someone said something to me and I'm offended. All of these things are childish. The steps, your beginning steps are really important to your end steps. And where I was, and I didn't even know, I just knew to be respectful, passed it on to my leadership. They were fine with me. And they said, we think you should go or leave right, leave good. Okay. That doesn't mean you're leaving correct though. Don't get it correct. Because many people leave good, but it doesn't make no difference. It's not God's plan for your life. And so it was for me to go. Me and your mom, Sally. Yeah, we went to where we are right now and we were there. And we didn't even want to be there. We didn't want to be there because we liked our previous church. And this one seemed a bit too wild for us. These people were a bit too wild for us. I'll give you that, mate. Thought, nah. We liked the home church, the family church. These people were talking about ministry, gifts of the Spirit, flowing with God. We thought, what? These people on? Yeah. So we weren't too keen, But we weren't there because we wanted to be there. We were there because steps. God told us to be there. And on top of that, I had already known that when I was going to go, God said to me, you're going to be the evangelist there. So I thought, I didn't even know what evangelist was. I thought, what do you mean by it? Well, I knew actually, correction, because I used to be a part of the evangelism team in my previous church. And by the way, I had the privilege, and I want to say it's a privilege, I had the privilege of being discipled by a wonderful man named Sidney Coy, who trained me, developed me, and kept me safe. And he was the picture of what church is meant to be, keep you safe. And he helped me in my early stages, walked with me, taught me, correct me, would rebuke me, and was in agreement with the next stage of my life. Wonderful guy. So I wanted to put that out there. Sidney Coy, an incredible leader. And I wouldn't be where I was if I never took on board the fathering what I received from him. So I'm glad to put that out here on the podcast. Yeah. And he used to take me evangelism. I remember that. But when I was to go to the new church, I knew I was called to some form of evangelism. God told me that, but I thought, whatever that is. Going back to we're in the new place. When we're in the new place, I joined the evangelism team. Yeah, because I knew, okay. I joined the evangelism team. Lo and behold, the person in charge leaves. And then they said to me, we think you should be in charge of the evangelism. Now, I'd already known God had told me something like that. So then for 5 years, nearly every Friday, roughly nearly every Friday, I was out in the streets of Brixton with a team that I would train every Friday. I would empower them with something to do with evangelism. Then we'd go out and tell people about Jesus, minister out there. Those rough times, those hard times, battling whoever we had to battle. We won hardly anything, but we were growing and we were getting there. And what happened was that we was out there for 5 years. For 5 years, I was the evangelist for the church, reporting back to the leader for 5 years. No complaining, just doing what I'm called to do. Then, apart from that, I then became a part of the eldership team. I was classed as a junior elder, and I was growing as a part of the eldership, the team. They saw the leadership on me. They saw something I never saw, and so on. Eventually, my pastor then, Rennie McLean and Marina McLean, two wonderful people, God was now moving them to continue what's called an apostolic calling in America. And God had revealed to them that I was to be the next pastor, which me and my wife laughed at. Because at that time, we had a huge eldership team, and me and Sally were kind of classed as the youngest. So I remember me and your mum thinking, well, I wonder who's it going to be? Because it ain't going to be me and you, that's for sure. Yeah, because we ain't got no pastoring qualities. We're turning people down. Yeah. And then we just was trying to figure out who it was going to be. They told us someone's going to be the new pastor. We thought, that sounds really good. So we're clapping and cheering, for whoever. Lo and behold, I go to bed, and in a dream, in fact, all night, all I kept seeing was like a hand saying, it's you, it's you. And in the dream, I'm arguing, goes, no, it's you. I'm putting back to God, it ain't me. I'm not doing this. I don't want to be this. Yeah. Now, what had happened was that the previous day, the pastor said to come to his house because I want to speak to you about something. In the dream, I had a dream of going to his house, going through his door, chair on one side, him on another side, and him saying, sit there. That's in the dream. Now, in the morning, I said to Sal, I think we're called to do this. And she said, no, we're not. Yeah, and I said, I hope so too. Yeah, all right. But she said, no, we can't be called. I said, I think we are. I didn't want to do it. Now, this is really important. I have no sense around doing it. Apart from God telling me, I don't want to do it. I feel like, I felt like he just wanted to play around with me. And then, I don't know. But I just knew he had said it, but I didn't feel like it, didn't want to do it. Okay? Went to my pastor's house, and when I went to my pastor's house, fear licked me, is the word I'd use. Come through the door, he's sitting down, just like in the dream, empty chair on one side. I said, oh, hell no.
So like this.
Yeah. But I remember thinking, no, this isn't happening. This is not happening. I don't want this. And I heard his voice saying, you're called to this, but I don't want this. There's nothing in me to do this. I don't feel I'm up to it. Sat there and he says, thus is the Lord. God said, you're called. And eventually, I embraced what God had called me to, didn't want to do it. cut a long story short, I became the pastor of the church. They had left. I was in charge of what I call a bunch of rebels. I didn't want to do this, didn't like the people. The people were all over the place. I had people that were for me, people that were against me, all sorts of things. I don't want to do this. And I found it really difficult. And one day I went home and sat down like I am right now, and I was putting up my hand. Now, my biggest fear was always quitting. I always thought, if you quit, that's it. And I put my hand up and said, I'm not doing this. I don't even want to do this. As I put my hand up, an invisible hand, like see-through hand, came on top of my hand and pushed it back down. And then I felt this anointing and ability on me. And I stood up and I said, I can do this. And then suddenly I knew I was called to this. Really, I was fighting it. Yeah. And when you fight it, it feels like you're not called to do it. So I said, yeah. From then on, me and Sally started pastoring the church, doing what God has called us to do. Didn't care what happened, just went along with it, went through all the ups and downs, which were a part of our training and our development. Didn't matter. You had to keep giving, keep doing. And then one day, in a dream, God said to me, Isaac, called you to be a prophet, but I've really called you to equip people. And through this pastorship, you're going to end up equipping people. Yeah. And he said, one day I'm also going to give you a building, and that's going to be the place where it's your church, but it's going to be like an equipping center. And I thought, okay. But I remember thinking, you're talking nonsense. I certainly can't do that. Yeah, I can pastor, but I'm not equipping leaders, and I'm certainly not going to be an influence to leaders. I thought, you've gone too far. As things start to go on, I'm pastoring, but then the prophet's coming out of me. So I find myself moving from pastor to more into the prophetic oil, but still pastoring because I can do that anyway. And then I found, oh no, I'm starting to move more into becoming a prophet. Then he's having me minister more out. Yeah, then he now says you're an apostolic prophet. I said, I don't want that, because that meant he was using me more out in the community. And I thought, I don't want to be this. I don't want to be this. And everyone kept saying, this is what God's called you to. This is what God's called you to. And I thought, oh, I don't want this. Every stage, I never wanted it. Yeah, but I knew about the pastoring, and I knew I was called to be a prophet. I didn't know I was called to be this term called apostolic prophet. Yeah, which meant that you're someone who's far more stepping out there, doing more, helping churches. And that's what I started to do. And then as I kept doing it, eventually he says, oh, you're now actually going to be an apostle. And I said, I don't want that. I said, I'm not telling anybody that. Then I had everybody saying, this is what you are. And I wanted to punch them all in their face because I didn't want it, because every step of the way, I was afraid. I was insecure, didn't feel good enough. And on that journey, God dealt with the insecurities, the uncertainties. But what I saw, that is the major thing to me that still today pleases my heart. God was very delicate with me, very careful with me. And he kept telling me what I didn't believe about me. And gradually, I started to fit it like a coat and wear it until I become comfortable. And like I've said before, the hardest thing for me was being me. Because I thought, yeah, but even if I'm going to be these things, how do I need to be? Do I need to talk a certain way? Yeah. Do I need to act a certain way? Do I need to wear a certain garb? What do I do? And when I was with leaders and I was being me, they weren't having it, because being me came against the grain, and they weren't having it because I wasn't, softly spoken. I didn't speak a certain way. I just was me. But then the more I followed God's plan for my life, I became what I was called to be, and I'm content with being me. And I'm at the stage where it's too late for you to come and tell me any differently.
Yeah.
I know who I am. So I've watched the steps. And everything I've stepped into, I did not plan. I did not need to fight for. I didn't need to pray or fast for, although that's incorporated in your walk. I didn't need to. I watched, and that's one of the things about why I'm doing what God's called me to do here now, how if God has a hold in your life, you will come into what God's called you to, and you don't need to try and make it work. If you follow the steps, you will come into it. And here I am today, standing in what God's called me to. I'm at ease. I'm content. And you could have never told me years ago that this would be me.
Yeah, now I feel like you're putting me in that situation, because I remember a couple of years ago when you came to myself and Minister Dominic and said that you wanted us to lead up the next gen.
Yeah.
I basically felt all those emotions you've just said. So feeling unqualified, absolutely not wanting to do it, and just thinking, why? I'm sure there's people out there who would love to take this role on, would love to take this responsibility. And I just think over time, absolutely, I can see that it's a call. I can see that God's hand is on my life. But I think the first time I stood in front of the church, I just wanted the ground to swallow me. And I actually thought to myself, like, why me? And every time I've stood before the church, I still want the ground to swallow me. And I'm just like, okay, how long will it take? How long does it take for you to really feel like you absolutely know that this is the calling? You know that God has chosen you, but I'm really struggling with enjoying it.
Yeah, because it's not about enjoying it. It's not about that. I'm sorry that, you want to enjoy it. Every day's Christmas. It's not going to happen. Because the most important thing is the foundation. Am I called? Yes. Okay. Then God will deal with you on the journey. Yeah. He knows how you feel. He knows what you've been through. He knows our insecurities. He knows our hurts and our pains. He knows where, we don't feel we match up to it. But am I called? Now, if you're not called, doesn't matter how much you try and make it, and even if you feel good, because I actually do believe many that say they're called, they're happy because they're not really called. They're really happy, yeah? Because when you're really called, it's a totally different thing. Yeah, it doesn't mean you're going to dislike it, but when you're really called, it is not relying on anything to do with you, but all to do with him. And I do question some people that are called that seem to love this, because when you know the real nature of your call, it ain't no joke thing. Yeah. And I think being called is, well, I know that's where it starts. The rest, you'll get there and eventually you will enjoy being you. This is the problem. We didn't know who we were. I didn't know who I was. You couldn't tell me this was me. Yeah, I was called to do this. Yeah, and there was nothing in me that even wanted it remotely. I even actually remember when God said to me that, there's a prophetic call in your life. I remember doing weird stuff. I'd go to conferences, see someone who was really prophetic and said, I found someone for you. I remember saying, I found that person for you so we can transfer the call to him. I remember pointing out people crazily, God, that person must be it. That person's so good. And God used to be laughing at me because I couldn't see myself being it. None of us could have told Joseph, remember Joseph, yeah? None of us could have told Joseph that the plan of his life was mixed into his brothers, totally disrespecting him, don't like him, spitting on him, don't want nothing to do with him, nearly wanted to kill him but didn't, and sold him to go to Egypt. You could never have told Joseph anything good is going to come out of this. And on a cart going all the way to Egypt, he must have been thinking, well, boy, that's it for me then, innit? My life's up. He must have been crying. He must have been scared. You could have never told him that he was going to be in the future the right hand to Pharaoh. Yeah, never. And when he gets there and he's what God's called him to be, when he does have an encounter with his brothers, he now can say to them, hey, what you meant for my harm, God meant for my good. So I received the good. Yeah. And your life is a discovery. I don't think many people discover who they are. That's just the way it is. But God's plan is to pull out of you the person in you didn't even know existed. Yeah. And when he does, eventually the hope is that you embrace it and you say, yeah, this is me. And I don't care what anybody thinks. But he's not really bothered about you not liking it. Because he knows that when you get there, you don't want to be anything else but that.
Yeah.
But it takes time. How long? How long's a piece of string?
I know.
Everybody's different.
Favorite thing about pastoring?
Mine? How interesting. If you asked me back in the day, my favorite thing about pastoring would be not pastoring. If you asked me back in the day, my favorite thing was bun these people. Yeah, I can't stand them. They're horrible. Yeah, and no matter what you do for them, they kind of like, it feels like they spit in your face. Yeah, and that was the thing I did not like at all. Now, my favorite thing, strangely enough, is the thing I hated the most. and is that I love helping people. I love empowering people. And I don't care what I get back for you. I don't do this for you. I don't do this for anything from you. I do this because there's a call, there's a desire. I'm anointed. I'm empowered to do so. And if you will allow me to, I'll help you to step into your destiny. So I love helping people now, whereas before it was the very thing I hated the most.
Yeah.
That's what I would say.
Do you ever feel like you're in situations where you feel unqualified?
There can always be moments like that. Yeah. Especially on your journey. When I first started pastoring, I never felt qualified to be amongst the other leaders. I never felt I was an orator. I didn't think I could speak properly. I never thought, I never fought. So I always felt unqualified. But God was there knowing that the qualifications of who I was on the inside. Okay. I've been Bible school, but no Bible school, can pull out of you what you're called to be. It may empower you concerning the theology, but no Bible school is designed to pull out of you your destiny. They're just empowering you concerning the tools that can be a part of your journey, but Bible school is not there to pull out of you who you are. So everybody gets the same teaching. Everybody gets the same training. Yeah. So Bible school can't do it, although it's there to empower you theologically. Yeah. God does it. God pulls it out of you. And it's got nothing to do with what people may say is a qualification. It's what God says you qualify. That's why God alone concerning your life holds the highest level of saying, well done, good and faithful servant. No one has that power. Only God does. They may say it on a level of what you've done on the earth, but the highest level of approval comes from God's words to your life based on the steps he's put in place.
Yeah, no, it's so true. And last thing, if there was one bit of advice that you could give to someone in my position, a young leader or anybody out there, even reflecting on your younger self, what would it be that you kind of wish that you was maybe told or you could say to us that would kind of just keep us going, keep us hanging on in there?
I would say I had the privilege when I first started pastoring, although my pastors went to America, I had the privilege that they put in place. There was a guy named Pastor Burrows, Barrington Burrows from New Testament Church, an amazing guy. God, he's gone on with the Lord now. But God had Bishop, I would say, I call him Bishop Burrows, play a higher level of a father, a pastoral father to me for around 5 years. So I would say one of the things when I look on my life, God made sure that every step where necessary, there were people greater than myself who played fathering roles or mothering roles in my life on my journey. So I can look back and say, if I never had that, it would have been difficult. But God knew these people need to be there with far more experience, and they're God's arm of qualification concerning you're doing okay. My biggest fear now, which you don't need to worry about, and the leaders in our church, my church, is that I think there are a lot of leaders that I think they've stepped outside of timing, or even if they've stepped out, they step out. And I believe 80% of leaders should still be in their church, leading in their church. I don't believe they were meant to be out there and started a church. I don't believe that. I don't believe most leaders were meant to step out. And I think there's a mindset that if you're called to be a leader, you say bye to your church and you go and start another church. I think most leaders were meant to be still in their church and operate from their church out. Okay? I don't believe many are called to be pastors. They take on that role so that they're in charge of the pastoring and what they want to do. Okay? That's what I believe. And I think it's a dangerous thing because down the road from what I have seen looking, they last for so long, then the enemy will get them because a part of that also means that they're outside of the covering that God would provide for them. I also believe that when I look on leaders today, the new leaders coming up, my fear is that they're not covered. And leaders have a mentality that they cover, but they're not covered. Whereas you should be covered. Covered means have people around you that play a protective role. And I'm not talking necessarily your elders in your church, because the level that you function on as the senior, they may not be able to fully be able to empower you. They play an empowerment role, but it could be you need to be led, not led, but connected to others that are on your level or above. I pastor the church. I'm the covering of the church, but also even myself, I'm under the covering of my bishop, Bishop John Francis. So even myself, I have got a covering, and Bishop John Francis can encourage me and discipline me. Tell me off. He can say what he thinks because I can trust him in that area. Are you hearing me? Yeah. And if there's really an issue, I can speak to him or other leaders that are on a specific spectrum, as I call it. And my concern is that leaders cover, but they're not covered. Yeah. Leaders are not fully and will not step into the full degree of what they're called to because they are not sitting under greater than themselves to help empower them. So I think that leaders of today, my concern is they're just going to function on a level which is good, but they'll never be what they really ought to be. And it also means that their congregations can never step into far more than where you are. Because you can't take somewhere where you ain't been, where you ain't going. That's what I would say.
So you would say to stay covered.
Stay covered.
Yeah.
Stay connected. Stop trying to do things on your own.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's very dangerous.
Yeah.
Very dangerous. Yeah.
Well, this has been fun. No, honestly, I've really been encouraged by your words and even this conversation. And I think, I'm looking forward to this journey. This series being specifically about leadership and just growth and just giving us that wisdom. So thank you so much, Pastor Isaac. And until next time.